Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Music of the Week. I don't really have a lot of preamble except for thank you to everyone who has watched the Over the Top Rumble, well, the entire pay-per-view, because that's up on YouTube now. It took me a few tries to get it up there, but it's up there, so yeah, if you haven't watched that, go and check that out, but probably check this out because it'll be much shorter. Anyway, we have 5 albums to get through, so let's get through them as quick as we can. We begin with a new act, Agriculture, and their self-titled debut album. This is a black metal act. I don't really remember where they're from, but then again, that's not really something I'm keeping track of anyways. And despite being a black metal act, it doesn't really follow a lot of the standards of black metal. There's only 6 songs, but it manages to put the album out to just about over half an hour. And I'm giving this one the highest grade of the episode as well. I'm giving it an A. I was pleasantly surprised by this. Mostly, not only is their instrumentation is really good, it is that crushing style of black metal, but there's surprisingly more melody and depth to it than you might be led to believe. There's really good lyrical concepts about the human spirit at the end of the day, and it seems to sort of tell a story of someone saving someone else from drowning or something like that. The band have a weird obsession with the ocean. I mean, the first song on the album is called The Glory of the Ocean, but there is nice poetic stuff when it comes to the lyrics, and it leans heavily into the concept that they try and bring across. The performances are really goddamn good, especially the lead singer, who is a woman. I don't remember her name, but you know me, it's going to be up here in text form. Anyway, that's really handled nicely. The production is quite nice as well. Very raw and open-ended in a lot of ways, but it does serve the overall sound quite well. Adds a lot of density to it, but makes sense of it a lot easier than most modern black metal does. And I think this is like a debut or something, so for them to have that production mindset, that really helps for me personally. And structurally wise, it's not even terrible either. I mean, there is only 6 songs, but you get quite a lot out of it, and it does a really good job at selling and telling the story that it's trying to tell. So yeah, all in all, not a whole lot of notes. Maybe the next one might be a bit longer, maybe also with a different story. It's still early for them, but this is a really impressive first hand from them. We then have Big Lef and their album Consume Me. This is more of a hardcore, punky, post-hardcore leaning album. I quite like this one. I did feel like it was a bit short. In some places it is one of the shorter albums I'm covering from the past weekend. Well, I said the past weekend. It came out in February. But I'm giving it a B. I thought it had some really strong hardcore, punky instrumentation. I think my main issue might kind of be with the structuring. It does go pretty quick from song to song. It gets things overdone and quite fast, but that's not inherently a bad thing. I just wanted there to be a little bit more padding. And again, I keep looking at this fidget spinner. I'm not entirely sure why. It's just there, and I keep looking at it. Yeah, where was I? Performance-wise, it's really good. The band are really invested in what they're capable of, and they're capable of quite a fair bit. Lyrically-wise, I couldn't find a whole lot, to be honest. I think there's maybe some political stuff. I couldn't really find anything to read. There's not really anything on the Bandcamp page either, which is very odd, and not like Bandcamp at all. But, you know, the overall sound was really good in terms of the instrumentation. I love the performances. Production's fine, you know, very crushingly mixed, maybe a tiny bit too much, but it does help to buff out the sound in some really nice ways that you don't usually get from hardcore punk. And I think I did gloss over the structure a little bit too short, but it does have a nice collection of songs on it. So if you just want a really good snacky album, again, it's worth noting there's 10 songs, but it's just not a very long album. But if you want a nice little snacky album and a really good hardcore punk snacky album, this will fill your teeth. Next we have probably the biggest one from last weekend. We have Kim Dracula and their new album, well, their debut album actually, A Gradual Decline of Morale. Now, Kim Dracula is a one-person artist. They are very noted for their visual work as well, and you know, they have some pretty strong stuff. They're from Australia, which I always appreciate. Their style is a bit difficult to pin down because it is inherently sort of a nu metal thing, but on the album there's elements of funk metal, jazz, metalcore, punk rock, indie, some pop elements here and there, and I'm giving the album a B-. Right now, my main thing with it is the fact that if this were just Kim doing all of their own work, and if they were allowed to express themselves more freely with the production, this album would be a lot higher for me personally. It has the same problem that the Glaves album had, whereas I like Glaves album a little bit more. And one of the detractions I had against it was the fact that it had so many producers on it, and Glaive was not one of the producers. I feel like it's the same case, but I couldn't find anything. This album doesn't have a Wikipedia page, which is weird considering how much buzz it's been getting. It doesn't really have a lot of information about it. So if Kim did self-produce this, I don't think they did. Like, I think if they did, it would have come off as a bit more coherent. But there's like 20 sort of songs, and a lot of the songs feel weirdly short, and you just get this feeling that Kim wanted to try and make the songs a bit longer and cut out some of the unnecessary filler stuff. I did like the sort of narration that they had going, and they did a really good job telling the album's main lyrical messages of like music industry corruption and queerness as well, because they are they are non-binary. I know that much about them. And you know, other struggles like that, and suicide and depression as well, and addiction. Very dark themes at the end of the day. Almost pessimistic and a little bit edgy in terms of the lyrics, but you know, very realistic in some ways. And as someone who did start off with fairly edgy music as a gateway to get into heavier stuff, yeah, no, I'm alright with the edgy lyrics. I don't hate the production. I think it's a little bit too clean though, and structurally wise, it just feels a bit all over the place. It doesn't feel like it's tonal whiplash, but for an album that's got 20 songs in it, it feels like it resets its style a fair bit. And again, this is not against Kim as a performer. They're a great performer. There's some executive meddling fuckery that's going on with this album that does not knock it down a little bit for me. I think Kim really wants to make a more authentic feeling album. They just really weren't allowed to. So yeah, it's nothing against them. It is a debut, so maybe they'll learn to like mix the styles a little bit better next time. I am looking forward to the next one, because this wasn't a horrible album, but it needed, it needed more Kim on it, I guess you could say. Next we have Restraining Order and their newest album. I don't know if it's a debut or not. I think it's their second one actually, titled Locked in Time. This is another hardcore punk act, leaning more into the punk rock side of things, and I quite like this album quite a fair bit. It did take a couple of listens for it to fully settle with me, but I'm giving this one an A-. There was a lot of elements of this one that I did quite like. There's some really good standing up for yourself lyrical themes, really good focus on like corruption and just trying to find your way in the world and dealing with it, a lot of modern bullshit. That's a really good central lyrical theme. I love the guitar work on this thing. The instrumentation itself is really good throughout the album, but there's something about the guitar that's just especially really goddamn good about this thing. I like the performances as well. The lead singer is giving it his all. The lead guitarist is giving it his all as well. There's just some really good work from the band. I love the energy that they put in. Again, it's sort of the same case with Big Left's album. This, much like Restraining Order, does pour in quite a lot of themselves. Production-wise, much like Big Left's album. Again, I know comparing the two, but they have similar-ish sounds. Again, very raw, but a little bit more organic, I would say, and definitely executed a little bit better in terms of the production. And structurally wise, again, very short album. I think roughly like a couple of minutes longer or shorter than Big Laughs, I don't really know, but very well handled for what it is. And the closing track is a whole lot of fun too, and they're able to manage their time a little bit better. So yeah, I quite enjoyed this one. It was a pleasant surprise for me. I wasn't really expecting a whole bunch out of it, but I did quite like a lot of what I heard from it. So yeah. And finally, we have Waster with their third album, Till the Wheels Fall Off. This is a band I heard about like in late 2016. I've listened to all of their studio albums. It's worth noting that this is their first album in 5 years, since Identity Crisis back in 2018. And I'm giving this one the lowest grade of the episode, which is a C+. And the reason I'm giving it a C+ isn't even because, like, I usually say that grade for an album is average or bland or a bit forgettable. This album is not forgettable by any means, but it's so bloody weird. So let's go through like some of the positives, right? I like the instrumentation. I love the fast-paced nature of this as a pop-punk album. It's not something you get a lot in modern-day pop-punk. It almost reminded me a little bit of Life's Not Out to Get You in some ways by Neck Deep, which is still one of the best pop-punk albums ever. Seriously, oh my god. There's a whole lot of, there's some cliche lyricism to it at times, some stuff about relationships and anxiety, but it is mostly handled in that sort of tongue-in-cheek way that I've come to grow accustomed to when it comes to pop-punk. And I know I glossed over the instrumentation. Guitar's really nice. I like the drumming as well. The performances are really good. Sammy Clifford, the lead singer, he's still got a really nice, natural sort of raspy tone to his voice. New lead guitarist Phil Wynn, though, he's the one that definitely stands out for me. His guitar work is fantastic. I wish he got the chance to do more solos. But now we get into the weirder bits of the album. So we'll start with the production, because throughout the first 5 albums, it's mostly, a very raw feeling punk record. Sorry, not throughout the first 5 songs, it's mostly a really punk rocky, fast-paced pop punky album. Then songs 6 to 10, they just have a lot of weird shit going for them. There's overlayering of vocals. There's pitch correction, at the very least. Tons of auto-tune. In some cases, there's double layering. It's just weirdly paced out, and there's a couple of guest spots in it that just don't fit by, I think the names are John Boyton and a group called Ten Bag Boys. Their guest spots just do not fit this album well. And that leans into the pacing, well, rather the structuring of the album, because the first 5 songs are fantastic, fast-paced, pop-punky stuff. Did I say first 5 albums again? Shit, the first 5 songs are fast-paced, fun, pop-punky stuff. Songs 6 to 10 are a bit more mellowed out, which I don't fully hate. But it's weird because the 11th and final song of the album is, again, much like the first 5 songs. See, I said songs that time, not fucking albums. Which is, it's a much more fast-paced affair. But it feels weird. It's a bit like a sandwich, right? Imagine that songs 1 and songs 11 are really nice bits of bread. Songs 2, 3, 4, and 5, really nice bits of filling. Songs 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are just weird shit that it tastes a bit out of date, just needs it to go. I know there's just a lot about that middle portion of the album, or second half-ish portion, that puts me off. But at the same time, I can't bring myself to fully hate it, and it feels like the band made 2 different albums and didn't know really how to meld them together. I think if they just stuck to the more fast-paced pop-punky stuff, especially the song Bricks, which is easily my favourite song on the album, they might have been able to get away with a bit more of it. But yeah, there's just, again, much like Kim Dracula's album, it feels like there was a bit executive fuckery with this one, and it didn't really fit, but, it's probably my least favourite Waster album, but I don't think it's Waster's fault at the end of the day. And that'll about do it. I will start with my whole ranking system right now. So we'll go with Waster with Till the Wheels Fall Off, Kim Dracula with A Gradual Decline in Morale, Big Left with Consume Me, Restraining Order with Locked in Time, and Agriculture with Agriculture. But as always, go and listen to all of these at least once, formulate your own opinions, because that's how the more interesting conversations about music get started. As for what's next from me, hopefully tomorrow night I'll be starting the Battle Block Theatre Let's Play, because I'm taking a week off of the EFED, because Over the Top was last week. So, that's a good show. I should do my star ratings at some point. But I'll see you all for something tomorrow. At the very least, a reaction video, because I've got a reaction planned. So, reaction video planned to do. I don't have, a pre-planned of how I'm going to react to the thing I'm going to react to. So I should specify that. But yeah, I'll see you all tomorrow for something. I don't entirely know what. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye-bye.